Chosen one, if you're watching this right now, God just whispered your name. In the next 15 minutes, you're going to discover the 7 divine signs that confirm you're entering your breakthrough season, and the one critical mistake that could cause you to miss it entirely. This isn't coincidence. This is divine appointment. I know what you're carrying. That restlessness at 3 a.m. That quiet desperation beneath your smile. That voice whispering, there has to be more than this. You've prayed. You've waited. You've wondered if God still sees you. He does. And he's about to prove it. Margaret was 58 when everything shifted. Robert was 62. Patricia was 67. They all thought it was too late, until they recognized the signs I'm about to show you. Before we begin, comment 999 below. That's your spiritual confirmation. Then subscribe. Because what heaven is revealing to you doesn't end here. This is only the beginning of your awakening. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. Let's begin. Number 1. The 3 a.m. wake-up call. Let me tell you about Margaret. She's 58 years old, lives in Cleveland, and for 32 years, she worked as a nurse in the ICU. Margaret had seen it all: life, death, miracles, heartbreak. She thought she understood how the world worked. But 3 months ago, something strange started happening. Every single night, like clockwork, Margaret would wake up at exactly 3 a.m. Not 2:47, not 3:15, exactly 3 in the morning. And here's what made it different. She wasn't anxious. She would simply open her eyes, wide awake, with this overwhelming sensation that someone was in the room with her. Not in a scary way, in a present way. Here's what most people don't know. Throughout history, the hours between 3 and 5 a.m. have been called the hour of divine appointments. Moses encountered the burning bush in early morning. Samuel heard God's voice at night, 3 times before he recognized it. Jesus would rise before dawn to pray, to listen, to commune with the Father. Modern neuroscience confirms what ancient spiritual wisdom always knew. Between 3 and 5 a.m., your brain enters a unique state. Your conscious mind, the part that plans, worries, analyzes, it's at its quietest. The veil between your conscious awareness and your deeper spiritual consciousness becomes almost transparent. This is when God can speak, without all the noise drowning him out. Now pause for just a moment. I need to ask you 3 questions. Have you been waking up at unusual hours lately? Not from worry about bills or health, but from this strange, unexplainable alertness. Do you feel that recognition right now? If you answered yes, listen closely. That's not insomnia. That's invitation. But here's the twist that almost cost Margaret everything, and where you might be missing it right now. 90% of people do exactly what Margaret did next. They fight it. They treat it like a problem instead of a door being opened. Margaret bought melatonin gummies. She downloaded sleep apps. She stopped drinking coffee after noon. She scheduled a doctor's appointment, convinced something was medically wrong. Her doctor ran every test: thyroid, hormones, vitamins. Everything came back normal. Margaret, physically, you're fine, her doctor said. This might just be stress. Try chamomile tea. But Margaret knew this wasn't stress. Yet for 7 full weeks, she kept fighting it. 7 weeks of exhaustion. 7 weeks of frustration. She did everything except ask, God, what are you trying to tell me? Week 7 changed everything. At 3 a.m., instead of rolling over in frustration, she sat up. She walked to her kitchen, made tea, sat in the quiet darkness, and whispered, Okay, God, I'm here. I'm listening. What do you want to say to me? She described it like this. It felt like someone had been gently shaking my shoulder for weeks, saying, Wake up, pay attention. Your life is about to shift. And I'd been swatting the hand away. But that morning, I finally stopped resisting. Nothing dramatic happened. No audible voice. But as she sat in stillness, a thought dropped into her mind so clearly it was like someone spoke it. It's time to write the book. Margaret had been thinking about writing a book for 15 years. About her ICU experiences. About sacred moments at bedsides. About faith facing death. But she'd always dismissed it. Who am I to write a book? I'm not a writer. Nobody wants to hear what I have to say. But that morning, at 3 a.m., she knew. This wasn't random. This was the message. This was God saying, I've been trying to get your attention. Now that I have it, here's what I need you to do. Margaret didn't wait. She opened her laptop and wrote 3 pages that morning. Messy, imperfect pages. But she wrote. Today, 10 months later, Margaret's book is being published. It's called The Sacred Shift: What Dying Patients Taught Me About Living. She's receiving letters from readers saying her words gave them permission to have conversations with dying loved ones they'd been too afraid to have. All because she stopped fighting the 3 a.m. wake-up call and started listening. Here's your action step. Tonight, put a journal and pen on your nightstand. At the top of a blank page, write, God, I'm listening. If you wake up tonight, whether it's 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. or 4:30, don't reach for your phone. Don't turn on the TV. Reach for that journal. Write down whatever comes. A thought, a name, a word that makes no sense. Write it anyway. Because that's not insomnia, chosen one. That's invitation. That's God saying, I have something to tell you, and I need you awake and quiet enough to hear it. The question isn't whether God is speaking. The question is whether you're finally ready to listen. Now, there's a second sign even more powerful, and it's something 62-year-old Robert from Denver almost missed entirely, until his wife said 7 words that changed everything. Number 2, the divine discontent. Robert is 62, lives in Denver, and for 23 years, he's been a successful financial advisor. Beautiful home with mountain views, grandkids he adores, a retirement account most people would envy. Everything the American dream promised. But 6 months ago, sitting in his corner office on the 14th floor, overlooking those same mountains he'd looked at for 2 decades, Robert broke down crying. Not because something bad happened. He just sat there staring at his computer screen full of numbers and portfolios, and the tears started falling. He called it the weight, like wearing a coat that used to fit, but now feels suffocating. His wife Linda found him at 6 p.m., still sitting in the dark, tie loosened, staring out the window. Honey, what's wrong? She asked, scared. Robert said something he'd never said in 40 years of marriage. I don't know. That's the terrifying part. I don't know what's wrong, but something is. Robert did what any responsible person would do. He saw his doctor, thinking maybe it was depression. They ran blood work, checked testosterone levels. Everything came back normal. His doctor recommended therapy. After 3 sessions, the therapist said, Robert, clinically, you don't meet criteria for depression. You're not experiencing hopelessness, loss of interest, sleep changes. This is something different. Then what is it? Robert asked desperately. The therapist leaned forward. Sometimes what feels like something's wrong is actually something trying to become right. The real story. This wasn't depression. His doctor confirmed that. This wasn't burnout. Robert had experienced that in his 40s. This was something entirely different. This was what King Solomon described in Ecclesiastes. That feeling of emptiness, even when you have everything the world says you should want. Solomon had wisdom, wealth, power, but without purpose, aligned to God's calling, it all felt meaningless. That sacred restlessness, that's God preparing you for your next chapter. Let me give you the framework. Depression says, nothing matters. Divine discontent says, what I'm doing doesn't matter enough. Burnout says, I can't do this anymore. Divine calling says, I'm meant for something more than this. Do you feel the difference? It's subtle but crucial. Depression drains you of energy for everything. Divine discontent drains you for things that aren't aligned with your purpose, but simultaneously fills you with energy for things you're being called toward. Robert noticed this pattern. He'd sit through 2-hour client meetings about retirement portfolios and feel like his soul was being drained through a straw. But when his pastor asked him to counsel a young couple drowning in credit card debt, Robert talked with them for 3 hours and left feeling more energized than he had in months. He'd avoid networking events with other financial advisors. The small talk felt hollow. But when he volunteered to teach financial literacy at church on Tuesday nights, he couldn't wait. He'd count down the days. The pattern was undeniable, but Robert kept dismissing it. I'm just tired. I need a vacation. The twist. Most pastors won't tell you. That discomfort you're feeling, it's not meant to be prayed away. It's meant to be followed. For 4 months, Robert prayed every morning, God, please take away this restlessness. Please help me be content with what I have. Please give me peace in my work. Good prayers, sincere prayers, but the wrong prayers. Because God wasn't trying to give him contentment in his current situation. God was trying to give him discontent about it, so he'd finally move toward his real assignment. It was Linda who finally said the 7 words that changed everything. Saturday morning, coffee growing cold on their deck, Robert was apologizing again for being off. Linda put down her mug, looked him in the eye, and said, Honey, what if God isn't trying to fix your life? What if he's trying to upgrade it? Robert sat stunned. Upgrade, not fix. Upgrade. What if, Linda continued, what you're feeling isn't something wrong with you, but something right trying to emerge? What if you're not broken? You're just outgrowing this season. That night, Robert couldn't sleep. Not from anxiety, from clarity. Suddenly, everything clicked. The restlessness wasn't random. It was redirection. The discontent wasn't depression. It was divine. The weight wasn't something to carry. It was something to follow. Within 2 weeks, Robert had a plan. Not to quit recklessly. He's too wise for that. But to transition. Today, 3 months later, Robert works 3 days a week with his firm, but only with clients who are ministries, nonprofits, faith-based organizations. Same skills he's used for 23 years. Different kingdom purpose. The other 2 days, he teaches financial literacy at 3 churches. He mentors young couples. He helps people get out of debt, not just financially, but spiritually and emotionally. Last week, he texted me, I make 40% less money than I did 6 months ago, and I've never felt richer in my entire life. That's what happens when you stop fighting divine discontent and start following it. Let me ask you, and I need you to be ruthlessly honest. When was the last time you felt truly, deeply alive? Not happy, not comfortable, but alive. Electric, on fire, like you were doing exactly what you were put on earth to do. Can you remember? Was it last week? Last year? 10 years ago? Write that moment down. Right now. Because that memory isn't nostalgic. It's prophetic. It's God showing you what alignment feels like so you can recognize when you're out of alignment. Now ask yourself, What dream did I bury at 40 that's trying to resurrect at 50? What did you used to talk about, plan for, get excited about, before life convinced you it was impractical or impossible? For Robert, it was ministry through finances. He talked about it in his 30s, but mortgages and college tuitions buried it until divine discontent dug it back up. And the third question, what would I do if failure wasn't an option and judgment wasn't a factor? If you knew you couldn't fail, if you knew no one would criticize, what would you do tomorrow? That answer? That's not fantasy. That's assignment. The divine discontent you're feeling isn't punishment. Chosen one, it's invitation. It's God saying, you've outgrown this shell. Time to step into what I've been preparing. But shedding requires courage, and courage requires recognizing the signs. Which brings me to the third sign, the unexpected door that 67-year-old Patricia almost walked past because it seemed too small, too simple to possibly be from God. Number 3, the unexpected door. Patricia is 67 years old, retired teacher from Atlanta. She'd been praying for 2 years about her third act, what to do with the rest of her life now that the classroom was behind her. She wanted purpose. She wanted to matter. She wanted God to use her. Then one Sunday after church, her daughter Sarah casually said, "Mom, you should start a blog about those family recipes you've been collecting for years. Seriously, your stories about Grandma's kitchen are amazing." Patricia laughed it off. "Honey, who wants to hear from a 67-year-old grandma about cooking? There are millions of food blogs. I wouldn't even know where to start." She dismissed it completely. Forgot about it by Monday. But 3 weeks later, Patricia was at her book club. They were discussing a memoir about food and family. During conversation, one of the women turned to Patricia and said, "You know, you should write something like this. The way you talk about your grandmother's kitchen, it's magical. Have you ever thought about blogging?" Patricia felt a strange flutter in her chest. That was the second time someone mentioned it. The following Saturday, she was on FaceTime with her 15-year-old granddaughter, Emma. Emma was doing a school project on family history and asked Patricia to tell stories about growing up in the South, about her grandmother's kitchen. After an hour of stories, Emma said, "Nana, you need to write this stuff down. Like, on a blog or something. I'd totally follow it. My friends would too." 3 times. 3 different people. 3 weeks. Same message. The principle. When God is opening a door, He doesn't whisper it once and walk away. He sends multiple confirmations. He's not trying to confuse you. He's trying to convince you, because He knows you'll doubt. He knows you'll dismiss it. So He repeats the message through different voices until you can't ignore it anymore. But here's the mistake Patricia almost made. The mistake that kills most breakthrough moments before they even begin. She almost dismissed it because it seemed too small. We're conditioned to think God's calling must be huge. Ministry, mission trips, dramatic career changes, starting a nonprofit, writing a bestseller, building an empire. But sometimes, often actually, God's biggest assignments come in unassuming packages. Patricia sat with this for a week. The 3 confirmations kept echoing in her mind. Finally, she did something brave. She called her daughter. "Sarah, remember when you said I should start a blog? Were you serious?" "Mom, yes." "Why?" "Because 3 people have now said the exact same thing, and I can't shake it. But I'm scared. I don't know anything about technology. I'm not a writer. What if nobody reads it? What if it's terrible?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she said something profound. "Mom, what if terrible is the starting point, not the ending point? What if God isn't calling you to be perfect? He's calling you to be obedient. What if one person needs to read what you write, and you'll never know who that person is unless you start? That conversation changed everything. Patricia started her blog that month. She called it Nana's Kitchen Wisdom. She posted once a week. Her first post got 23 views, mostly family members. Her second post got 18. Her third got 12. Most people would have quit, but Patricia remembered something her pastor had said years ago. Faithfulness in small things qualifies you for big things. So she kept posting. Every Tuesday, recipes with stories with life lessons with scripture. She wasn't trying to go viral. She was just being obedient. Month 3, something shifted. A post about her grandmother's biscuit recipe and the lesson about patience and waiting for dough to rise got shared 47 times, then 300 times. Then it was picked up by a regional lifestyle magazine. Within 6 months, Nana's Kitchen Wisdom had 12,000 followers. Within a year, 47,000. Today, Patricia has published 2 cookbooks, but more importantly, she gets messages weekly from people saying things like, "Your recipe for Sunday pot roast brought my family back to the dinner table for the first time in 2 years. Your story about your grandmother's hands reminded me to call my mom before it's too late. Your post about breaking bread saved my marriage." One woman wrote, "I was planning to end my life. I was on your blog looking up a recipe to make one final meal. Your story about hope rising like bread dough stopped me. I called a hotline instead. I'm still here because of your words." Patricia keeps that message framed in her kitchen. She never imagined a blog about recipes would save someone's life. But that's how God works. He takes your small yes and multiplies it beyond what you can imagine. The pattern to watch for. 1. The random suggestion. Someone mentions something casually. 2. The repeated theme. You hear it again from a different source. 3. The unexplainable pull. You can't stop thinking about it. 4. The fear response. It scares you a little. That's how you know it's real. If you're experiencing all 4 of these, that's not coincidence. That's choreography. That's God orchestrating confirmations so you can't miss it. Your homework. In the last 30 days, what suggestion keeps coming up? What have you dismissed as too small or not spiritual enough? What opportunity have you walked past 3 times? Write it down. Because here's what I know. The door God's opening for you might not look impressive from the outside. It might look small, simple, ordinary. But Patricia's small blog is now feeding souls, restoring families, and literally saving lives. Your small obedience might be someone else's miracle. Don't despise small beginnings. Don't wait for the door to look more impressive. If God's opening it, if He's confirming it through multiple sources, walk through it. Even if your knees are shaking. Even if you have no idea what you're doing. Because faithful obedience in small things is what qualifies you for the big things God has waiting. Now, the 4th sign is the one most people completely misunderstand, and it cost 54-year-old David nearly 12 years of friendships before he finally understood what God was actually doing. Chosen one, you didn't find this video by accident. These 3 signs, the 3 a.m. wake-up call, the divine discontent, the unexpected door, they're appearing in your life right now for a reason. God is repositioning you for breakthrough. But this is only the beginning. There are 4 more critical signs we haven't covered yet, and the enemy doesn't want you to see them. Subscribe to this channel right now. Click that button. Because heaven has more instructions specifically for you, and you cannot afford to miss what's coming next. Comment "I'm ready" below as your declaration. Your transformation starts today. I'll see you in the next message God has prepared for your journey.